Is here. We're going to play some Path of Exile. We're going to talk to Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games, so everybody welcome him in the chat. I have a few guys who are working as moderator, and you have to refresh if you're not seeing it, as someone in the chat has mentioned. We have a bunch of questions from the community. We'll try to go through as many as we can. No promises to get to all of them. Some of them are real specific, so this may be a bit more of an advanced course on this game than anything else. If you guys have any more kind of lighthearted questions, I do have other Q&As that I've done before with Chris, and those may answer some of those easier questions. You can find those on YouTube at the Frag World Team channel. I'll have some links connected to this article as well. So, Chris, say hello to everybody.
Hey there, how are you guys doing?
Looks like we have a Brian in the chat as well. So
yeah, he's the real guy.
He's the real guy?
Yeah, it's actually the Ben Weissman, the famous Magic the Gathering player, who works with us. He's one of the founders of our company.
Interesting. Speaking of which, that's actually right into the first question that I guys had for you. Silix from the forums asks, how did GGG start, and how did you form together? Or are you mostly friends or people that just came together to create a game?
The first four founders were friends. We knew each other from meeting and action RPGs, actually, and we had the time and money that we wanted to put something together of our own. We thought we could really add to the genre, so we did. And since then, we've expanded the company to hire a lot of people who didn't start off as friends, but they are now.
So what was your guys' goal when you started off this game?
We basically wanted to recreate the experience that people had playing Diablo 2 in the early 2000s on Battle.net. There was a community, the character saves were stored online, so there weren't any major security problems, and we wanted to basically provide a new game very much like that for fans of that genre.
So you guys, how do you think you're doing so far on that?
I'm pretty pleased. I mean, as a player, I really enjoy the game. It's exactly what I wanted, but then that's because I had some influence in choosing how we made it. And the reception from the community has been really good so far. There are a lot of both hardcore and casual players who have been really enjoying it, especially on the public weekends.
Yeah, you guys just had a public
Can you turn the game volume down a little bit?
Sure can. Is that overpowering everything else?
Well, it's not so much overpowering, it's just that I think we're all just soft speakers, so...
Probably true. Okay. Just do a quick run through of my character that you guys are going to watch me play while I try to talk at the same time. I am currently in the Endgame, as they call it, which we'll go into a lot more a little later on. I use Lightning Arrow mostly. I'm level 67. I just leveled up not too long ago. This is not like a dev-built character. This is my own personal character that I've played for the last couple weeks. Specifically to get into the endgame stuff. If you guys have any questions, there's a link to my build in my description. It's nothing super special. It's a shadow start with bows, and I get a lot of crit damage. There's a massive passive skill tree in this game that we'll talk, I'm sure, about shortly. So if you guys are interested about that, there'll be plenty to say. Let's get to more questions. One question from Wooey, I'm assuming his name is Wowie, I don't know. Some people's pronunciation is a little funny. Is why did you guys decide to make this game free?
When you're creating a game, there are a lot of business risks involved. And by creating a free game, you're making sure that a lot more people get to see it, because obviously people who don't want to take a risk buying the game, or those who don't have any money, will now get a chance to play it. And obviously it means you're monetizing less per user, but hopefully you get a lot more users due to it, and that means there's word of mouth, and they can spread news about the game. And it also means that players have more people to play with, and more people get to see the work, because at the end of the day we're doing this because we like the genre, and we'd love more people playing it. So that's why we made it free.
Now you guys have a bunch of cash ups plans and stuff, and I'll be asking plenty of questions about that we got from the community. But just in general, what's your stance on pay-to-win stuff?
We feel that pay-to-win stuff damages games. It's bad from a competitive point of view because it kind of undermines people actually playing the game for itself, and it kind of means that those people who are powerful in real life become powerful in the game. And that really turns off a lot of players who play games because, they want something different than their day-to-day grind where they've got some bot that earns more money than them. So we've been very careful to design the game so that we can sell cosmetic things rather than pay-to-win things.
I'm sure a lot of people will feel better hearing that. Now, the endgame stuff that we're going to talk about is the map system that just got introduced in this new patch. And there's been a few questions based on that. But just in general, can you kind of run through what your thoughts were on making a map system like this?
We wanted to have an end game which wasn't just people playing the same static content over and over. I mean, it would be, we could add some boss runs and make sure that they're fun and people could repeat that forever like they did with Baal runs in D2. But we wanted to have something more interesting for players to do, and we've experimented with a lot of systems. There was the old Maelstrom of Chaos that worked well as an experiment, but there were too many problems with it. So with the map system, we wanted to have random areas that were itemized, so part of the challenge was getting and trading for those maps, and it allows people to trade for interesting ones that fit their characters really well. So the maps have mods on them, which dictate various like extra challenges. For example, the monsters might be super immune to lightning resistant, in which case it would be challenging for your character because you're using lightning arrow, but you might be able to instead trade that for a map to some guy who does another type of damage, and the lightning resistance isn't such a big deal to him.
I actually ran into that very same thing earlier, where everything had fire resistance, but that didn't affect me at all, because I don't use fire damage.
Yep.
So.
And that means you get the extra drops as a result of the increased difficulty without any kind of extra risk.
Or very minimal, at least. There has been some things, we'll go over a lot of this stuff shortly after I finish this little part, where we're going to go into a map that I have, that I'm going to try to roll for you guys live and see what we get. And we're gonna pick it based on the chat's feedback, so it's going to be entertaining to see what they choose to go with. But I ran into issues where there are certain maps, just based on the mods, that it would be completely impossible for me to actually run that successfully.
Yep, and there are two things you can do with those maps. You can either trade them for one which is better for your character, or you can use the in-game currency crafting stuff to re-roll it so that you have easier mods.
I know you guys just had the weekend stress test that just happened. Ended this Sunday, I believe.
Yep.
The time conversion between California and New Zealand is always a bit challenging to figure that stuff out, but we had a couple of different questions from different people in the forums about that open weekend. Ragnar119, who we've seen her on the forums quite a bit, he asked, how did the open weekend go, and what was the max number of players you guys had online?
The weekend was a big success. We discovered that our servers are using a lot more RAM than before because some of the areas are larger, so we didn't have enough RAM to break our previous concurrency records. We had to set some queue limits lower. I mean, just a little bit lower. I think we had like 6,500 people online compared to 7,600 before. But due to the queues, it spread them out over more time, so it wasn't as many people on at peak time, and we actually had quite a lot more people overall connected in total. I think there were 55,000 people who tried the game over the weekend, rather than 48 was our previous record.
And Snippets asks, did that meet or exceed the numbers you were looking for?
It exceeded the expectations of how many different players would try the game, and we were very pleased that we had enough to fill up our servers so that we learned good data from them, while not enough that people's play experience was compromised too much.
Yeah, and it was a stress test. There was some server stress, right? You had a few scrapes and stuff in there, but...
It's a developer stress test. We were testing our own breaking points.
So how'd that go?
Badly on the first day, otherwise it was fine.
Alright. Silex asks, how are they preparing for the grand opening of the open beta? Do they expect to have more than enough server space, or do you fear that you can get slammed and have the servers crash? That kind of stuff?
That's a tricky one. I think it'll be okay in terms of server capacity, but there is stuff that we need to do to increase the server stability between now and then. It's really tough to get a good idea how many people are going to play on day one, and if we overestimate, then we waste a bunch of money on servers we don't need, and if we underestimate, everyone has a bad play experience. But weekends like this give us a really good indication. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be, say, 10 or 20 times more than we would get on an open weekend, and hopefully it will be less, especially considering the last wipe will have occurred, so everyone's now playing for real. And we've had, like, a couple of 100,000 people play the game in the past and express the opinion that this is great, I like it, but I'm coming back when my character is going to stick around, and that's when the open beta starts.
I could see a bit of a concern there. I mean, me personally, I spent a few weeks playing this character, but I will gladly come back for the open beta and start all over. but that's just my personal experience from playing. I can see how people might not want to do the same. Here's another question regarding open beta. Ragnar119 says there's a lot of talking about open beta, but for how long is it planned for a game to be in open beta? What key features do you need to have before it releases?
I honestly have not ever discussed that question with anyone before. It's not something we've really considered. Our goal at this stage is we get to open beta, we make it as good as we can, and then we have a look at the roadmap going forward. And that's going to depend an awful lot on player feedback. I mean, if we have to add more content, then that's a priority. If we have to add more skills, then that's the priority. If we need to add more league types, maybe PvP, additional modes, then those are the things we'll work on. In terms of when we label it as released, well, we do like the beta label because it's a good excuse if we run into problems, but we're treating open beta kind of like a soft release, and the ability to formally release is really just a PR change.
It's just kind of dropping that label. Basically, it's it. The game itself doesn't necessarily need to be at any specific point.
Right. We haven't discussed. I mean, it could be a year, it could be 6 months. I have no idea at this stage.
Fair enough. Do you have an estimation on when on the open beta actually launching?
That's going to be obviously a lot sooner. We were anticipating entering it in August was our initial plan, but we made the decision to get some more stuff in there first, just generally increase the quality of a few areas and make sure that we're not, forcing it out a little too early. I don't have a good estimate of when it'll be. It's partly when we're happy with it. We're really aiming for it to be this year, and I'd love it to be, not right at the end of this year, especially because then we'll be competing with some of the other large MMO releases that come out.
Or how about other large action RPG releases that may come out soon? It's also similar.
Yes, that's
things.
a good point.
The other question about open beta was, are there any plans to add new characters in the open beta?
What, new character classes?
That's the question. It's from Rex GG.
I think the characters that they see on the passive skill tree at the moment represent the set that we're going to have in open beta.
It's a good answer. I like his answer. I did have some stuff about PvP. I want to discuss that too, since I'll cut into the Fear the Bowtie asks, Cutthroat League, when can we expect to see testing or implementation on that?
So Cutthroat, it's the best thing about this game for leagues that last about 60 to 90 minutes. Longer term ones we have some problems, they're going to be difficult to solve. And we're probably going to run more 60 to 90 minute tests. I'd like to get them weekly in the near future, it's just a matter of finding time to do so. As for long-term permanent ones, that requires us prioritizing, making it actually work as a long-term game mode. And, I mean, people can see the obvious problems. You get the players to be ingrained in this mode where they just kill noobs mercilessly as they join. And in our testing, that's not 100% fun. It's much better at the beginning when people have, a 1 or 2 hour event where everyone starts on an equal playing field. So we will make it a long-term mode, we just have to work out how to make it fun, otherwise it's going to upset some people. As for when in the schedule, it's difficult to say. It's not as important stuff like the core PvP and Act 3 stuff we're working on for open beta.
Yeah, I actually had the great chance to participate in that 3-hour event. That was, I think it was the first one that was done live with public testers.
Yeah, you may have noticed that in that 3-hour event, the first hour and a half was a lot of fun, and the last hour and a half could be kind of depressing when you get killed over and over by gangs of 6 people hunting developers or streamers.
Exactly. So yeah, I ran into that issue personally, where the first hour it was super exciting and a lot of fun, but yes, at a certain point, you're getting invaded by large parties that are just going to wipe the floor with you because they've progressed better than you, and it happens. So it was really fun though. It's a crazy mode.
We'll make it fun for longer term ones as well.
Yeah. For those who haven't explained that at all, because I haven't talked about exactly what Cutthroat mode is, it's a separate ladder from the rest of the game where you can go invade other people's instances and kill them and take all their stuff. So it's pretty exciting for people who like that kind of stuff, but if you don't want to get involved in that, it's totally optional. It's not you don't have to worry about that in the normal game. And Dash Galaxy 86 asked, once we're on the topic of PvP, you often talk about how PvP is going to be a part of the endgame. Aside from team deathmatches, which I've never heard about personally, but okay, what other PvP modes might we see?
So in the first PvP patch, we have both dueling and arenas lined up, so you can put yourself in the queue for an arena which is of a certain size, and you get match made into a big team of, between, I guess, 1 and 6 people, I think. And we have a dueling mode where you can challenge another party to duel, which could be another single person, or could be a group if you have a bunch of guys that want to fight them. And that's our initial pass that we're going to do, so we get some good feedback on both single and multiplayer PvP. In terms of future things, we definitely want to obviously make the Cutthroat League really viable, and that has a ton of PvP in it. We also have plans for more structured tournaments, so there might be, say, a 128-person single elimination tournament where you enter and you're matched off against random people, perhaps Swiss matchups like Magic Card tournaments, and the winner is given some prize.
And
There are
then
some other plans
that
we've
rolls right
discussed that
into Dash Galaxy also asks if the games become popular, will there be cash prizes for competitive events or in-game prizes for PvP or ladder races? Since you're talking about it now.
It would be awesome to add cash prizes, but I suspect there are some legal issues we'd want to solve first, as well as making sure that it was something the company could sustain. Like, the players might not like it if we gave all the funding money that we've raised from them out as cash prizes to a couple of really good PvPers.
Perhaps as a suggestion, just cash shop money. I mean, for small stuff. But yeah, the tournament events might be really cool, but that depends on what you think. Legal issues definitely are an issue there as well. So, sorry for interrupting you. You were talking about some other PvP modes you thought about.
Oh, I was getting vague at that point and saying the rest of them haven't been finalized, so it would be premature to announce them.
Alright, I tried. I did attempt to sneak that one back in there. Let me find another question here for you. Some people also, in part of the questions, they gave us kind of ideas on what they'd like to see. So we're going to run some of them by you in a kind of a quick-fire fashion and see what you think. They are formed in the question, but it's loose. It's a loose question. It's more of a here's what I'd like to see kind of a thing. So Ragnar did mention that are there any plans for new interesting support gems that change how skill functions, like the totems work?
Yes, there are, and that's something we want to look in either before open beta or early in open beta, because the system can do so much more than it currently does.
And then will there be set items?
Long term, probably, but we haven't rushed into it because it requires a bit of effort to do well. The issue is that once a player has partially completed a set, or even fully completed the set, they're not going to want to change an item out to put something else on. So we want to make sure that it's something where the players feel good about using those items.
And that was from Seven Soul. Storm Cyan asks, would they add something like randomized daily quests in the future?
It's possible, I can't rule it out, but it's not something on the current horizon.
And then more from Ragnar over here. He's curious about making exploring areas more interesting and rewarding, like random events that you can find.
I agree. That's another thing that's not on the short-term horizon, but can definitely be supported.
Then there was another one from Triada13. We have one gem in game, the Portal Gem, which can use any socket color. Do you have any plans to add later some other hybrid color gems, or gems that could be used in multiple socket colors?
Well, with regard to gems that work in, say, 2 colors, we found that works for all the character classes apart from one. So, for example, the Dexent gem works with literally every character class apart from a strength character. So, 2-color gems don't really work out. We do actually have at least one other gem planned, which is white, like the Portal gem.
Okay.
And they see that in X 3.
Ah, nice tease. Then I'm going to move on to some other quickfire questions we got from community guys about some concerns and issues they had from within the game. I'll try to go through these pretty quickly because, I don't know, some of them are a bit very specific, let's say. So those of you who've never played the game, you may not fully understand the concept behind it, but I wanted to ask them for the community's sake. So the first one's pretty easy. It's how will you guys deal with bots like swarming easy difficulties and farming in-game currencies?
We have several ways of dealing with botters, and for obvious reasons we can't go into exact specifics because that's just handling the recipe to beat us, but we have both technical and heuristic-based approaches to make sure that we can detect and ban people who are doing that, and the community's been very good at policing each other's behavior. Everyone has to go through town in order to get anywhere, and people see suspicious behavior in town and report it, which is nice.
I did hear a rumor about a bot that was running for checking shop stuff.
Yeah, that was quite impressive. We had a recipe that was slightly abusable and a guy automated it, and we've made it very clear that doing that in open beta will be a permaban. But for now, we appreciate the fact that it's something that we've been told about and that we fixed relatively quickly.
So for the closed beta players, if you at least tell them what you're doing, they don't really get mad at you too much. But open beta, it's bannable, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should do permabans now just so people don't get the wrong impression, but man, that's a lot of stash tabs you have there. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me cringe, but thank you very much for the money.
I like to keep all of my stuff. I guess I should explain that too, because I'm sure chat will ask about it. I've over the streaming over the last few days, I've been asked that same question. Why do you have so many stash tabs, so many times? I take advantage of one of the selling recipes in this game, where you can take two items with the same name that are rare, and sell them to the vendor for an alchemy orb. So you notice I have 48 alchemy orbs currently. That is far more than you would get normally. I do try to organize it based on what items are actually good and what items I don't mind selling because they're not useful. But since we have that, I'll bring it up as part of this discussion. There was a question, I can't seem to find it right now, but there was a question about the Chrome plugin that I'm using personally, and that a lot of the people have been using. Would that be considered a violation or anything an issue with? It's a Chrome plugin that will scan your stash from the forums and try to make matches and pairs based on these recipes for you, so you don't have to search them manually.
I see two problems with the plugin, but it is allowed at the moment. The first problem is that it was causing a bit of server load on our site initially when it was set up because it was, requesting the stashes every time you go to a page. We addressed that with the author and that's been okay. And as long as people's external stuff like that isn't actually inconveniencing other people by causing load issues, then that's our first concern gone. The second concern about it is that it's a type of automation that there is literally nothing we can do to detect, right? We can't check whether or not people are running a plugin on the website. If they modify the game client, we can see that and we can ban them, but we can't stop them using this plugin. And we can't tell them to not use it because of that kind of thing, because it's unenforceable. So we have to accept that people are using plugins like that on the website. So we have to then be careful what data we expose to the website. Thankfully, in this case, it's relatively harmless, and in fact, it encourages people to make sets of items, which hopefully adds to the fun of the game.
I mean, personally, like, without this plugin, the amount of work and effort it would be required to try to match all these things yourself without, like, finding other players to help you would not be worth the amount of it. But for me, this also generates a reason to buy a bunch more stash tabs. Is the more
Yes.
room I have, the more things I can match. So
That is cool. We try not to motivate all our decisions based on what makes us the most money, though, but that is a good point.
yeah, but I already had all this cash shop money from I purchased the supporter pack for extra beta keys to hand out, and if you guys are interested in playing this game right now, you can go to the Path of Exile website and check out the supporter pack to get into closed beta right now. You just for $10 you can get in for the first closed beta, and you also get that money back as cash shop currency. You can also choose to support them in other ways and get other rewards as well, like in-game pets and stuff like that are fun. So me personally, I did the $100 pack, got a little banner for my forum avatar, and I got a bunch of stash tabs. That's what I did.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I mean, I much appreciate it, and to me, it coming from Diablo 3, as a player who played like 200 hours of Diablo 3 and got really frustrated and fed up with the fact that nothing was valuable in that game unless it was absolutely the best thing ever, and then it would sell, and otherwise it would not sell for anything. So the thing was so yes or no and black and white on that, and it would take so many hundreds of hours to get anything actually useful by chance. This, to me, every item I pick up that's yellow, which is pretty often, is basically half of an alchemy orb in the long term. So
Yeah, I see what you mean. We've
makes
tried
everything
very
valuable.
carefully to make sure that some of the best, most valuable currency items in the game can drop for level 1 characters. I mean, if you, like, let's say you want to play an alt, right? You want to start a new guy. In a game like, say, Diablo 3, there is literally no chance you're finding anything in the first, 40 hours of gameplay that's actually going to have any kind of, value to a high-level player or use to your other characters. Like, the yield of playing your alt is 0 from the point of view of items until you hit endgame content. Whereas here you could find a Mirror of Calandra, which will set your character up for life in terms of items, if you're very lucky, on the first starting beach area.
You can get one from Hillock. I heard a story about someone who got something like that from him. The first boss. Or the first mini-boss. I personally really enjoy the currency system. It functions both as a reward system for just fighting stuff, and also as a like currency and trading system within the game, and also as a crafting system, which is an interesting use for a lot of that stuff to me. I'll demonstrate some of that
really
a little
enjoy
later.
it as well.
When we start doing maps, as soon as I clear this one out, we're going to do a map. Let me go back to the quick fire questions I had on the concerns and issues that these guys had. So, Into Mogant asks, how does it work to add new acts? When I have a level 60 character and the new act is released, should I go back to normal difficulty to get the quest rewards?
We're adding Act 3 when we transition to open beta, so in this case, it may involve the wipe as we add the act. I mean, it could be that we throw it on beta just beforehand, in which case we do have to answer that question. But yes, with quest rewards, if the person still had a character when we add the new act, then they would have to go back and get the quest rewards. The more difficult question is, what do we do in the future with regard to the level progression? See, one thing that I want to avoid is, let's say it's super hard to level up after level 80, right? That's the point you start taking some serious amounts of time. We don't want to throw a new act in later and make it so it's trivial to get to 85 now, because that kind of undermines the thousands of hours of grinding that some players have done. So we're very wary of inserting new acts in the future. I mean, obviously we have a lot planned, but we have to find a way that doesn't disturb the level progression of the game.
So that's rebalancing monster levels and kind of bringing it back into tow?
Yeah, or have some degree of parallel content in the higher difficulty levels.
Okay.
But this hasn't been decided yet. For Act 3, we're just going to go and rebalance everything with regard to levels. It will be a major change that will probably be very disruptive to people's characters, but we're doing the open beta wipe at about the same time, so they don't really have any reason to complain there.
In the past, you've done legacy wipes, but this is not going to be one of those times.
Right, when we got open beta, we remove all the leaks, we recreate everyone's characters as level 1 guys with the same name, and we persist the Demic Presence trophy uniques that people got from doing tournaments.
And that's when everything is real after that point? No more wipes and stuff is the plan?
That's right. Not doing the whole Legacy League content in the open beta, a different way of handling short-term ladders.
Sorry, your mic went a little fuzzy there for a second. Can you say that again?
I was saying that in open beta we're not having a league labeled as Legacy, we're having a different technique to managing short-duration ladders.
Okay. So no one's going to be pushed off to the background. They're just going to have separate things that may come to the foreground stuff.
That's right. You know how we have this 2-week hardcore league at the moment, for example? That's the type of thing we'll be running in open beta where, sure, there's default, but we don't move everyone out of default and make them feel like second-class citizens, causing them to think, do I want to start a new character in the new league to be with everyone? Instead, we'll make it clear that new leagues are short duration and optional. You know, if you don't want to play that much during the 2 weeks, just completely ignore the 2-week league and keep playing in default.
And then one of the cool things about those leagues, this is not a question from anyone specifically, it's just something I want to bring up, is that those 2-week leagues, they have in-game rewards for your other league characters, if you'd like. So if you do well in that 2-week hardcore league, like what do you get out of it?
At the moment, we have quite a lot of prizes for leagues like that. This is partly because it lets us test the prizes before we enter open beta to see what works and what doesn't as a motivator. I think that, I mean, in this particular 2-week league, you're getting microtransaction credits, you're getting a trophy unique that persists through to open beta, you're getting access to a unique map that's literally full of treasure chests, and you're getting up to 1,000 currency items for hitting level 80. So it's quite a generous incentive for people to play.
A unique map, huh? That sounds like fun.
Yeah, the Vaults of Siri. I think no one has been in that yet.
Hey,
like, one hasn't dropped natively.
If you'd like to spawn one, I'll gladly take it. Just kidding.
Well,
let's move.
Whoever gets these needs to stream the opening of it, because I want
Yes,
the community
please.
to see what's in there. It's not a giant spider, honest.
Jonathan.
In fact, there's so few giant spiders that will surprise you in that map that you should go in with no items, so that you've got more room to take stuff out, trust me.
Okay. This sounds like a good idea.
No, seriously, I'm kidding. I mean, there's no monsters in that map at all, honest.
Uh-huh. I don't believe you. No, don't
There are
believe
people
you.
laughing here, yes.
Let's let's go back to these quickfire real quick. There is a concern from Lion, I guess. He has two concerns about weapon base attack speed, the metagame, where only the fastest weapons are used currently by most characters, and then also the physical damage versus elemental damage disparity. They changed a little bit of that in the recent patch, but can you kind of talk a little bit about your plans for trying to rebalance or consider certain attack speeds to be more effective?
Okay, so this is where the awesome questions start. Okay, so with the weapon attack speed disparity, there are two different things going on here. The first one is, if you have a fast weapon, you'll deal your stuff that happens on hit more often, right? So if you are able to stun monsters, then you will stun them more often. It'll also mean that any static damage that you have, plus 5 to 10 fire damage, is dealt more frequently. However, the large weapons, the ones that are slower, do have slightly more damage because of the fact that they're slow. They also mean that they're doing more damage, so they're more likely to cause longer or more frequent stuns. And if you're dealing, say, cold damage, you'll get longer freezes because you're going over the 150 millisecond threshold more often. So I do not believe that there is a problem with people using fast weapons too much, and in our analysis of characters, we do see plenty of people with very large success using slow weapons. The fact that the user asking the question believes that the fast weapons are better, to me says that he's having fun doing that. As for the elemental versus physical problem, that is an actual disparity that we've been working to rebalance, and I'm pretty happy with how it got improved in 0911, but we're keeping an eye on it.
Me personally, like after 0-11, I did get a bit of a. I was heavy into elemental damage, so I did get technically a nerf, as people will call it. But I didn't notice any particular like concern. Like it didn't seem to really change my character too much. I could still play just fine. There was a question involved that where if I could find the person who wrote it, but I can't see the name right now. Windows just told me that my activation was successful. I'm like, what? Okay, what did I activate? The question was essentially, even after the elemental damage change, where they lowered a lot of the elemental damage, they seem to be doing just fine, if not better, even in merciless difficulty. Did you retune the difficulty at all?
We did make it slightly easier, and in addition, I mean, we tried not to completely just hose elemental damage. We just toned a few things down in some places and up in other places. I mean, I may be wrong here, and this is one of the things that causes me to get 50 emails when I am wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's overall more elemental damage to be gained in the passive tree, and I get people looking at me strangely. So
it's just
yeah, I think it's
maybe
just
a little more spread out.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go into maps now. So this is gonna be entertaining, hopefully, collectively from the chat. Oh, sorry, to answer a question from the chat, he's asking why I don't level up my gems, because it's OCD. Certain gems, their mana cost increases as you level them up, and it's kind of a, do you want to spend the extra mana to cast a spell and have it do a little bit more damage, or do you want to be able to spam the spell more often, that kind of thing. So that's why some of them are set at a certain level. Sorry for the OCD people out there. Let's get one of these maps. Okay, so I want to demonstrate the crafting in general in this game, and also how it's used on these maps in particular. I have one really, really nice map that I want to try that I might die at, so just fair warning, this might happen. It dropped as a map level 62, which is decently high, and item quantity, or the quality of it, is already at 12%. So just like everything else in the game, you can change the quality of items easier when they're still in their white stage. So I'm going to use my cartographer's chisel to give another 5% quality here to demonstrate how that works. So now it's at 17% and it's already starting off strong. So this is what we're going to try. I have a couple other maps we can do after this one that hopefully I won't die on. But if you notice, some of these mods on the maps that I do have are very difficult, and would make it extremely challenging for my character to do this. So I'm going to use an Orb of Alchemy to turn a normal item into a rare item. See, so this is what I ended up with. We have Blood Magic, Warlord's Mark, can't regenerate life or mana, and everything has increased physical resistance. That's a little worrisome.
Yeah, but 50% more items.
That is the challenge, and if these particular things didn't didn't really harm my ability to play it, this actually wouldn't be too bad of a map for certain people. I'm gonna have to re-roll this one just because I want to actually go on this map, and this is not blood magic is not gonna work for me. What does the chat say about this one? I can't do blood magic, so that's gonna be a map killer for me. Have you guys noticed that to be an issue, Chris?
Yeah, it's intentional that some of the maps just aren't possible for certain characters, and they should trade them or re-roll them. I've had exactly the same problem with blood magic, and the players can't regenerate life from mana. When we were setting up maps to show Total Biscuit the system, we kept hitting maps that wouldn't be possible with the character that we'd rolled for him. He had such a niche build that we made that only certain maps would be really good for him.
Yeah, and the chat is mentioning the same thing. Yes, blood magic and not being able to regenerate life is a pretty rough combo too, because a lot of blood magic users use high life regeneration as a method to stay alive. So
that's what makes it challenging.
So we're gonna use this here. Okay, this might be a bit dangerous. I don't know if we're gonna try this one or not. I don't mind using all my Chaos Orbs. It's fine. If we go through it, we'll re-roll it. But I want to try one of these tough ones and hopefully not die too often. I saved these specifically for this event, so the chat is going to help me determine which one we're going to go on. So this one has more magic monsters. I have less maximum player resistance, which is going to be a little rough. They also reflect my elemental damage, which is personally going to be really challenging. And they deal more cold damage. I don't know. So this does not look promising for me. What about you?
Well, the magic monsters just makes it harder. The minus player resistances just makes it harder. The damage reflection, well, you're a bow user, so it's not going to hurt you as bad as it would a witch. And the cold, I mean, that just makes it harder. See, it doesn't drip.
Yeah, again, not impossible on this one. But I do a ton of elemental damage with my lightning strikes. So getting reflected 25% of everything I do is probably going to hurt. Especially with lowered player resistances combined with that. So I'm going to reroll it one more time and hope for something a little better. Let's see how we go. We have a blood magic again. This is going to be almost impossible to do for us. Oh, I think I found it. Alright, I think we found the map that we're going to try. This one, at least I assume so. What do you guys think on chat? We got more monster pack size. I can handle that. I can handle thicker monster packs. Monster life, they have more health. Might make it challenging, but I think we could do it. They reflect physical damage. I don't do a whole lot of physical damage, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. The stun thing, that might suck. We'll see. I do a lot of stuns. With my lightning strike hitting pretty hard and causing them to stop in their tracks. Helps me to kite them. But we're going to try it. We're going to see how it goes. Compared to the other ones, It's definitely easy. Compared to the other ones.
Yeah, you got a good roll there. But the problem is something like increased monster pack size doesn't actually add additional drops because of the fact you get all the drops from the monsters. So that's a plus 0% reward one. Which, of course, is still a really good one to roll because of the fact you double the number of monsters.
Okay, so it's not a mod that actually affects the map quantity.
That's right. Okay. I mean, it does because of what it does, but it doesn't get an extra bonus to make up for anything.
Gotcha. It's because it's not necessarily a negative in
right.
As far as loot is concerned.
If you're trying to get more maps, you want that one because it makes the map have more maps in it due to the fact that there's more monsters.
Well, I hope for more maps. Everybody loves more maps. My gear, it's not that great. It looks good because it's got a lot of decent sockets on it, but it's not like I will probably die. So just be aware. If I get hit more than like twice with this character, I will probably die.
People in chat want you to bring your Kiwi out.
My Kiwi, okay, we'll do that. There he is. No, this is not hardcore. I do have a hardcore character. This is not hardcore because this stuff is pretty tough at the end game, and enjoyably tough though. The question from the chat already is, why are there 4 slots when activating a map?
I think map words was the answer for that.
Map words is the answer, according to Chris.
Yeah, I think we commented that if you use a Mirror of Calandra to like mirror one of the maps, then the symbol is backwards. could be useful.
What do you guys think about that stuff? Has anyone figured any of that stuff out yet?
Nope, I can say that no one has yet successfully used a map word. Possibly because they don't exist, but we'll see.
Possibly. All right, let's ask another question while I set this up. Dash Galaxy Galazy, sorry. How deep will the appearance customization options go in the cash shop?
That will be based on player demand. We have a lot of interesting stuff lined up. Hopefully there'll be a lot of it in before open beta. I think there was a picture that included a character customization that we posted as like a screenshot a few months ago. Few people picked up on the fact there was an alternate character thing in there though.
Interesting. As you guys may have noticed, that 6 portals have opened up. So the way another, I don't think he's related to Jay Wilson. I don't believe that's the case. Chat has funny questions. 6 portals have opened up. That is exactly how many times you can enter this map, meaning that is the most amount of inventories you could get out of the map worth of loot. So you could bring 3 people and everybody can go in twice. You can bring 6 people and everybody can go in once. Or you can do it yourself and technically go in 6 times. So that's what I'm going to try to do and hopefully not die. Duolk asks, will there be any new quest rewards with Act 3? If this is other than gems, flasks, and passive skills and refund points that we already have, like any other specific quest rewards for Act 3?
I think so, though our plans aren't 100% finalized, so that might change.
Alright, I'm going to have to concentrate on not dying a lot. This is going to be a challenge to try to read this and not die.
Multiple projectiles, Chaos Guy is nice.
Oh, this is going to be a little tough. Because every time I look over to my other monitor, I'm getting shot again.
You should give me something long to talk about while you're playing then.
I know, right?
Actually, there was a good one asked earlier about the supporter packages in the cash shop. I believe the question was after the theoretical release or / open beta, whenever, or I guess for now, if you have any plans on letting people progressively get to a certain package level, I guess would be the term, so that instead of doing like a one-time support donation of however much, they could just incrementally go up over time, and then once they reach that certain level, get that package.
Yeah, this is something we'd never predicted that people wanted. We figured that they could save their money and then buy it when they'd like the whole thing at once, so that they get all that they paid for. But we found out that people have wives who aren't as nice as my wife, I guess, and won't let them spend money on games in large quantities, so... to answer your question, yeah, they kind of can at the moment. The way they could do that is basically if you just buy the $10 packs or the $15 packs, or whatever you want, and then you can contact our support department and ask them to be merged together to make a larger pack. Now, the key thing here that they have to remember is it's important they don't use the keys they got for those packs. So, for example, let's say you want to upgrade to a silver pack, which is $100. If you buy $10 packs and none of the keys have been used, or only like 3 of the keys, then it's identical to a silver pack in terms of how many keys you got. And when we merge the 10 packs together, there's still 3 keys left over, which are the used ones, and you haven't gained any advantage compared to the other players, so that's cool. But if you use all the 10 keys, then you'd have more keys than a silver pack would give, and we're not able to merge them because it would be unfair on the people that outright bought the silver pack. So anyway, if you're confused by that, feel free to just email our support guys, women, sorry, and we'll explain it in detail to you. Thanks.
I'm going to have to put my Kiwi away because I keep thinking it's an enemy and I keep trying to shoot it.
So, yeah, that's what we're saying as well.
So sorry, I know the Kiwi is adorable and I agree, but I can't. I'm trying not to die here, guys. It's really trying not to die.
Quick question from chat. What auras are you using?
I currently have Wrath and Hatred. I'm leveling Hatred a bit to see how it goes. I did have Wrath and Clarity on before, but with Mana Leech in my attack, I don't have any issues with mana, so I didn't need Clarity, and it reserved a ton of mana, so that's what I'm running with right now. Just more damage, basically. Like the alternate setup I have that's easy to switch is to put in lesser multiple projectiles instead of Mana Leech and swap out one of these to probably Hatred because it reserves more into Clarity, so I have more mana regen again. But that doesn't allow me to just spam the ability like I hoped.
Someone in chat asks what characters Chris and Brian are playing. Recently, I've been playing other people's characters because I've been doing the Build of the Week video series, so each week I have to play an awful lot of players' characters, and so I generally take them, try them out for a level or so, and it's fascinating to see all the different characters. I'm probably a better use of my time than leveling up one guy for like 30 or 40 hours.
Yeah, some of the builds you guys have showed off on that thing have been really entertaining.
It's really hard to top them though. I mean, to find a more and more complicated build each week is difficult.
One unique feature about these maps is that there is a unique boss on every map that will have different... is that based on the map alone and not on just random rolls?
It is. Type of map has a different type of boss. And the reason we did that was so that there was something you could slightly build around. Like, you might decide that the boss on this brief map is easy for your character, so you just do maps if you can, and there's a slight degree of specialization.
I did a map recently with every mob cast greater projectiles, like 4 more projectiles, and it was full of those guys who just fire those fireballs. And that was the... and I was like, oh, that's horrible. Yeah, it was real rough. Trying to dodge 16 fireballs coming at you from all directions was quite entertaining. That's one of the things I love about the in-game system is you can never quite know what it's going to be and how it's going to affect you, but you can hopefully try to make a guess at it. See,
yeah.
One fireball I can dodge no problem. You know, easy.
Alright, we wanted it so players would still get a random surprise. It depends what monsters are on the map, but at the same time they can kind of hedge their bets around certain mods. You know, this map's going to be fine providing that I don't get blast, so I'm going to bring a ton of extra resist to deal with that or whatever.
Let me try to get to a safe place and I can bring another question back from my list here. Oh, safe place. That is not a safe place. These jumping guys will really get me. For me personally, the ones that kill me the most often in the game are Flicker Strike mobs. I have a major problem dealing with them.
There aren't enough.
You don't think there's enough of
monsters
them?
that cause problems are ranged in general. Like when you go through our list of monsters and monster abilities, most of them completely hose melee. It's actually embarrassing. So the fact that Flicker Strike poses a problem to ranged is only the beginning, trust me.
Oh dear. One of the questions revolving the new maps, it says, Velrak asks, regarding the new maps and the proposed limit of only being able to take out 6 inventories of loot due to limitation of portals, if you were able to take out more than 6 inventories of loot, would that be considered an exploit or viewed as smart use of existing game mechanics?
Why? What did they find?
They didn't say.
They should PM me about that.
Okay.
It really depends. I mean, it could be smart use of game mechanics. It could be an exploit. I mean, yeah, there are definitely exploits that would be a problem.
Well, as a random offhand example, if you just leave your secondary weapon slot unchecked, like with nothing in it, you could technically
That's
take out...
fine.
Yeah, but that's not really...
Yeah. I mean, like, if they say, hey, look, I brought in less items and I muled them out of my tab and I was really careful to maximize my inventory space and that kind of thing, that's no problem. You know, even putting items in their spare tabs. If they said, hey, look, I've got this way to access my stash from inside the map and I'm going to fill up 100 tabs full of things, that's a problem.
I stopped being able to move. It's bad. Oh, okay. I think that was lag. Oh dear. Luckily I didn't crash out, so I think I'm okay. Can you guys still hear me?
We can still hear you.
Yep.
I had a little scare. Thought I was going to crash. Hey, it's a meat grinder. Haha.
I have a question for Chris, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, man.
Will the orange uniques drop And the maps are only on the standard playthroughs maps.
You can find unique items in both types of areas. There are some high-level ones that will only drop from maps because of the monster levels. There is a famous armor called Kaum's Heart, I think, which is a Marauder chest that gives you 1,000 life, and that one can only drop from, I think, level 66 through 69 maps.
Those really high level maps. Now, you can only get like level 60, maybe 61 maps from the regular areas. So once you've run out of those, so you have to get other maps from within those maps to go up higher?
That's right, yes. There's basically a pyramid of them where they're exponentially more difficult to get to the next level. Of course, trading makes it so people with in-game wealth, who find good items and are good at farming, they're able to get more access to the higher maps.
Would you say that maps have a higher chance to drop when you go in with multiple characters, or does it not work that way?
We specifically violated the rules of the item system and made it so that they do not get an increased chance to drop by having additional characters in the game. And this was because if they did have an increased chance to drop, then you would basically have to play maps with a full 6-person party, and we wanted to keep the tenets that you can play solo if you want to.
Right, like I'm currently playing solo. It's not the most efficient way to do it, I'm sure. But I'm succeeding. I haven't died yet.
Right, if you had more players, it would be more of a challenge. You'd probably get more items between the whole party, which is less items per person, and you'd get better synergies. You'd be able to attack from a distance while there's some guy tanking, but you'd still be getting, like, on average, 50% of a map from each map, or whatever the ratio is.
I'm just being very careful to dodge as much as I can. This makes it challenging to talk at the same time.
Well, there's another stream question. If you will have a presence at Gamescom.
Interesting.
We're not intending to have presence at Gamescom. It's time-consuming and expensive to travel to foreign countries to show off the game, so... I mean, that's the wonder of streaming, right? We can show many people around the world probably a better look at the game by doing an event like this.
That sounds good.
And I can do it by walking across the room rather than traveling to Germany.
It's probably a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and
I almost
in addition,
died.
Germany has some very strict rules about gore and violence.
I almost died. You missed it. I was really close. I got hit with some sort of poison, and my health was ticking down super fast. Let's. I got another question here lined up. Talking about will you continue to release tile sets even above and beyond what Act 3 offers in order to keep the endgame map system working?
Yeah, providing that we need more content for it. I mean, we've got 45 different map types at the moment, some of which do have repeated tile sets currently until we get more work done on it. But I suspect that you'll begin to see some Act 4 stuff making its way in eventually once we're working on that. So it'll be nice if we can use tile sets for both the core game and the maps. But, I mean, it's easy to, for example, change the floor texture of a level, and it looks quite a lot different. That's a bit of a cheap trick to use for the core content, but in terms of making a map interesting for low developer time, that's definitely easy.
There's a question in chat about giving away beta keys. I don't currently have any keys. We can ask Chris and see if he's willing to give some in the stream or whatever, and we'll see what we can do. But currently I don't have any keys to give out.
I can get you some keys. I often find when we do giveaways in streams, it generally creates a lot of people begging for keys and not asking quality questions. Plus, I get the impression that due to the hardcore questions I'm being asked, several of the viewers are actual players of the game who don't need the additional keys. But I'll send you over a few. We can do 5 for an event like this.
Sure.
I'll send them via an email now.
Yeah, we'll probably do that at the end of the event when Chris is already gone. So don't beg for keys now. We'll do that later tonight. Okay. So, thanks, Chris. We're gonna keep going. Someone bothered to talk in red. Yeah, let's not start doing the key stuff quite yet.
Yeah. And if they need keys and they don't get one, they can of course, with any support amount over $10, they get access immediately.
And I highly recommend it. If I really recommend this game for just $10 to support it. You get to play it all you want. The open beta is coming out soon, so you could technically wait for that stuff, but.
Yeah, we still have the beta key time to give away, which, I mean, sure, the chances are relatively low now that we have 400,000 people in the queue, but you never know.
Question from the Swamp Dog: will there ever be a way to increase character inventory size? Not shared stash, just extra inventory space.
That's being discussed a lot at the moment. I'm personally happy with it. Some of the developers side with the players, and we don't know. We'll come to a conclusion soon. You have to understand, though, that our motivations for having the inventory stuff the way it is. I mean, there are lots of things going on. For a start, we're not switching to single slot items. We want the items to have weight behind them. We have nice art. The game is about getting items. We want them so that when you get your bow, you can see this big bow that's important. We also want it so the player has to make tough decisions regarding what they pick up. If your inventory is giant, then you're just going to be carrying around a bunch of things, and you can make decisions about it in town later. We do want it so there's some tension on the field. We will never sell inventory space. That's definitely pay to win, and we're not interested. Stash space is different because it's kind of a secondary storage thing. It doesn't affect your moment-to-moment playing, and you can get more stash space by just registering more free accounts. It is a problem that there are lots of small currency shards that take up inventory space, and we may find a better way of storing those rather than just increasing inventory space.
I found a map. All right.
You win the internet.
Yep. That's always exciting to find a map within a map, because then you get to do more stuff. Yeah, I would agree that more inventory space, especially in a cash shop sense, would definitely be a pay to win thing. And I can see you not wanting to do that.
They're not going to be sold. It's just a question of what's good for the game. I mean, when we say no to increasing inventory space, we're not doing it because we hate the players and want to make the game bad for them. We're doing it because it's more fun that way around. Obviously, we haven't come to a complete decision on that yet, so don't take that as a complete no.
You guys just like my pro dodging right there, right? Everybody saw that? I just wanted to point out that those guys didn't hit me with those fireballs. I need to find another question here.
I got one from chat.
Go ahead.
Can you explain in very noob terms the difference in wand physical damage and elemental spells damage?
Between wand physical damage and elemental spell damage?
Yes, that's the question.
When you shoot someone with wand, it's like you hit them with a sword. It does physical damage because it's a concussive thing that knocks them back. It just happens that it draws it from a distance because it's a ranged weapon. So it should be treated exactly like a normal weapon. It's technically not melee, but it is physical. So if you do a wand build that doesn't use any particular spells like Fireball, and you just use wand skills, like I think Power Siphon, and you increase your wand damage and you increase your physical damage, then you'll be acting like a sword guy, but with a ranged attack, kind of like using a bow. And that's definitely a viable build. And that's all 100% different to the concept of casting spells and the elemental damage that they do. So regardless of what wand you have, it's not helping your Fireball unless it has spell damage or elemental damage on the wand as an optional mod, in which case it will increase your Fireball. We do not have a system like Diablo 3 where your spell damage is based around what weapon you're using. So you can use a low damage weapon if you have a spell that does high damage.
But certain skills couldn't be used by wands as far as melee or classes go, right?
That's right. You have to use skills that are wand compatible. At the moment we have Power Siphon and I think Elemental Hit. And I know it's not a particularly good set of choices, but more are coming. It's a very niche build that a few people actually want to hit with their wand as the major way they do damage. And you can dual wield wands, by the way.
Harry Potter. What? Just kidding. They actually herborist, sorry, spelled that wrong. Please make sure to ask them about future skill changes and new skills that may be coming. I'd like to know whether my duelist will be using Cleave and Dual Strike for the rest of the game.
We'll be adding more skills, I promise. We'll be fixing the skills that are worse as well when we get time. But at the moment the priority is PvP and Act 3 to enter open beta. So this will require a few skill changes for PvP, filling in gaps, maybe some more mobility skills, and fixing ones that are especially troublesome in PvP.
I'm having problems with these guys. They're really tough. So, are you guys working on PvP stuff? Specifically, this is just from me, not from a single person. But I'd imagine that this kind of a game would be really tough to balance for PvP with all the stuns and different status effects affecting everything so drastically.
It is super hard to balance for PvP. Like that scratches the surface barely. Like for example, let's say you can design some really glass cannon characters in this game. So let's say you designed something that was doing a massive amount of damage and had no defenses, and then you played against another player who also did a massive amount of damage of a different type and had no defenses. How long should that fight last? I mean, let's say it's lame if you kill each other in one hit, right? So you have to have some damage scaling so that you can't kill this incredibly vulnerable character with your super damage in one hit. The problem is, if you just do it like that, now regular characters fighting against each other suddenly take way too long to kill each other. So then you have to start saying, well, are we applying logarithmic scaling to damage based on this quantity? And, there's all sorts of questions there. However, we will solve them and we will make it fun.
And then you end up with the other side of it, too, where two life regen, lifesteal tanks start facing off in melee combat.
Yes,
exactly. How that could take hours. I don't know.
Right, so we want both fights to be fun. The other thing is there's some really strong rock, paper, scissors stuff going on. You can be incredibly vulnerable to fire damage if you just don't put on a fire resist gear. And at the same time, you can do entirely chaos damage, which will completely screw over a fire user who doesn't have any chaos inoculation, for example. You could enter PvP and the guy is just able to one-hit you because that's how he built his character. However, that comes with the territory with this type of game. I mean, there are other type of games people should be playing if they want it so that all the PvP matchups are 50-50. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, there's dozens and dozens of builds that I've already thought of, not necessarily for PvP, but just in general for the game, that would entirely function differently. Like that build you guys had on Build of the Week, where it was entirely based around letting other monsters hit you and dealing damage based on Tempest Shield and Molten Shell.
Yeah.
Like, how would that function in PvP? I have no idea.
Indeed, I can try that out.
That's an interesting one to think of. Is what about if you're fighting against a ranged or spell user, and that kind of thing, where he's not going to get the spell block to do his damage, so he's essentially not able to do his intended build against the spell against another player. Interesting stuff. Did you guys have another question from the chat ready?
Yes, this one kind of filters into the PvP. People are wanting to know what the plan is to reduce the dominance of ranged builds in late game, especially hardcore.
There are a few changes. One of them is that we need to have monster types that actually interact with ranged characters better. At the moment, as I mentioned earlier, most of the different monster types and abilities hurt melee characters a lot more. With regard to ranged and PvP, we will be changing it so that the ranged characters actually fire real projectiles. When you're shooting arrows there, you're not actually firing a projectile, you're just doing a long-ranged attack, like it's likely to do a sword attack. It just looks different because we animated it to fly through the air. So we will be changing it so it's a real projectile that the monsters can actually step out of the way of.
Interesting. I actually had some concerns that someone else had too about doorways. Ranged users do not like doorways. Both sides, enemy monsters and yourself. Doorways are a problem for them dealing with those.
There may be some bugs there that we can fix up to make it a little nicer around doors. Well, like the monsters won't just shoot into the side of the door for it.
Right, it may change when the projectile actually has to connect with the target, as opposed to making the attack from range, like you said. Oh dear, I almost died. See, I got hit one time. I'm just spamming all my potions to stay alive.
I'd like to ask another question then.
Go ahead.
This was asked earlier in chat, and we have a lot more viewers now since then. Any plans to change the color of the name of maps when they drop so they are easier to find?
Interesting.
I think the answer is probably a yes. The only issue is that I kind of don't want it violating the existing system. I mean, let's say you make them bright orange or something, or greens, they stand out. What do you do about magic ones? I mean, we don't want those to blend in with the existing magic items, but we want the users to know this is a special map. So it could be something other than changing the color of the name, like putting a border around the ground hover for it or something, just so it stands out on the ground without being a different color.
So like putting an aura around the actual drop.
Yeah, or like a red border around the item description on the ground. There are, I mean, it may not be red, of course, but there are various options there to make it stand out without actually changing the color.
I'm in a situation right now that I wanted to demonstrate. If you look closely right here, I can see that the boss is right here, even though it's underground because it hasn't spawned in yet. If I go to try to pick up this weapon, it's just going to pop up and try to kill me. So I'm going to go bait it, right? So do you think it's okay that you have the aura kind of warning people if they look closely enough? Or do you want to avoid doing that until you can surprise them with the guys popping up?
It's not something ideal. We'd rather not have it do that, but we haven't done that yet. So it's just a small quirk for the time being.
Wow,
It occurs to me, how else would you find the boss?
I critted 4 times. Yeah, it's true. I did run into the problem of having to run around a map like 4 times to find the boss that was hidden because I just didn't happen to walk onto the right path for him to pop up and actually attack. Yeah, but I critted 4 times in a row with that one. That's why that went down so fast. So I beat the unique boss in this area. I got a divine orb out of it.
That's very lucky.
I don't know if I have any of those currently. I believe they're pretty rare. I may have one.
People in chat are saying Tetris, but they may underestimate the amount of copies that Tetris sold.
I personally enjoy the amount of loot that drops in the game and its size. I understand some people are used to the Diablo style of you can just carry, 80 items, and that's how it goes. But that's not. I don't like that.
It's not Tetris until we get the L-shaped items, right?
that's
Some
right.
some people asked whether or not we can rotate items.
Rotate? Why?
Yeah,
It
to fit
seems-
in the spaces.
Why? But it's still the same amount of. That doesn't.
It actually come up as a support thing. How do I rotate the items?
Hey, you know what? Do that. Why not? It'll be great. I think we should do it.
Okay, and we'll have, some mode where they fall down your stash?
Whoops! I didn't mean to destroy it. I want to put it over here. I almost destroyed it by accident right there. Yeah.
Your stats
Yeah,
stats
don't
are
click
coming
this
up
way.
again in chat.
I know. That always will be as soon as there's new people in here.
Yeah, someone points out that the inventory in Path of Exile is twice as big as the one in Diablo 2. It's actually only 50% larger than the one in Diablo 2. They have 4x10, we've got 5x12, for a total of 60 squares.
Let's see if I can find a question before I go back and start almost dying again. Here's one I wanted to include because I know how funny this will be for certain people. Will one of the remaining patches, this is by Velrak, will one of the remaining patches before open beta include any enhancements to fishing? Like any new poles or bait or fish?
We're pretty happy with the fishing system as it is at the moment. I think the threads on the forum, there might be 2 by now, documented in quite a lot of detail.
Alright, so no
And that
improvements to
thread is
fishing?
awesome. We're not planning on changing fishing though.
Okay, good to know.
Well, I mean, we'll look into changing fishing later, but for the time being, we're happy with the amount we've implemented of that feature.
Sounds perfect. Anything else from the chat about my stash tabs?
Oh no, just people saying that you had 37 slots when you were in there last.
Yeah. I do have 37 stash tabs. Yeah, it's true. The Gonth asks about guilds in game. Are you going to add in any kind of support for guilding with your friends and in larger groups like that?
Yeah, there will be, but it's not a super soon thing.
Any ideas on how that might actually be implemented?
We will eventually have quite a lot of support for complicated guild structures. I suspect initially it will be more like a party that's permanent. Probably have guild story. I don't know when that's going to be added though. It will probably have guild events as well.
For me, oh jeez, this guy's kicking my ass. Hang on, I got him. All right. Yeah, that hurt. I didn't die, so far
Nice, that was
successful.
awesome.
Yeah. All right, it's very stressful playing this in this map. This map is tough. You just can't get hit with stuff at my current level. I need to find a new.
Yeah,
question
we're
for you
actually
guys.
changing. We're improving how evasion works relatively soon. Maybe even as soon as today or tomorrow. We haven't yet announced what we're doing, but it makes evasion strictly better.
Just generally better.
Yeah, it adds a new property to evasion without taking anything away.
Interesting. All right, I'll look forward to seeing how that goes. I know there was a question in my list regarding specifically about evasion versus armor and energy shield. How generally everybody prefers armor and energy shield just due to being more useful. So I assume that means you're addressing that issue or trying to.
Yeah, this will fix it.
Cool.
And then they should stop complaining. That'll be good.
We'll see. No one will ever stop complaining. You know how that goes. It's the internet. There was also a question that was by Lion, who had that question as well. Also a concern about the keystone nodes of point blank, acrobatics, and elemental equilibrium. Do they think that you need to be adjusted at all, like those specific things?
I don't have a problem with either of those ones. We have a problem with other ones, which aren't on that list. See, what I suspect they're doing is picking the less popular, maybe quite as powerful ones that may be relevant for other builds, and
I just got
wanting
a
them to be
5 link.
better. Hey, congratulations.
And it's really good. This is actually exactly what I want. Evasion and energy shield. So
That's why we play the game.
that's an awesome drop for me, guys. I know it's a white. That's what I love about this game is that it's a white, but it's still an awesome drop. Like I will make that into something really awesome. Here, I'll try to do it on air here shortly. See how it goes.
Nice. Yeah, to answer the question about those keystone passives, those particular three aren't going to be getting attention in the very near future, but we have a few others. Like, we're looking at bringing back Avatar of Fire, and we had a big discussion about Iron Reflexes to see what we could do about that.
I miss Avatar of Fire, but it was really, like I said, like you mentioned earlier, the range didn't really get the downside nearly as much.
Yeah, Avatar of Fire is enjoying his holiday on the plane of fire.
It looks like I've cleared this map just about out. I'm gonna run around it and make sure I didn't miss anything. If the chat notices I missed a map or something, please let me know. Because the suggestion I had for that was perhaps a specific sound that the maps make when they drop.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Might be easier to pick them out that way if you can hear them.
Yeah. Then people will troll each other in parties by, like, walking a distance away from their friend, dropping a map and grabbing it again really fast.
Okay, that'd be pretty
we
funny
have trolls
though.
on staff, so we can predict this kind of thing.
It's good to know that people in staff have concerned themselves over something like that. According to the chat, I've missed 4 maps. I didn't see any of them.
That's statistically unlikely.
Yeah, most likely not.
I mean, maybe you did miss another, I don't know.
I will keep looking. Oh, Seven Soul was the was the person who asked the question about the evasion. So give him credit for that. Rex had another concern about when the open beta comes out. I think this is kind of related to the current alpha tester system. When the open beta comes out, will us closed beta testers be able to test new content before it hits open beta?
Our intention is to turn beta into the live production realm, in which case, while beta testers may still have a status to show that they were in the beta, they won't be testing the new content unless they get added to the alpha. Having said that, because of the decrease of testers, we will definitely need to add a lot more alpha testers, so I expect that we will go through as many people as we can and find those with good feedback. So if you want to be added to the alpha tests now, in the future, I recommend you start giving good feedback and not trolling people now.
But it's the internet. Everybody trolls everybody. Isn't that how it's supposed to go?
Yeah, I'm a little guilty as well.
Ah, well. We did just talk about fishing for a few minutes.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of
That's
our
one
own
thing,
way.
but like lying to new users is kind of bad.
Yeah, I get you. Hard Dominator asks, will you add a currency trading house in game? Some way to convert your currency through other players, so similar to an auction house, I imagine.
This may sound bad, but there are advantages in trading being a little more difficult than it otherwise would be. We will have a trading system that is better than our current one. In fact, we'll have two different steps of trading system. We're going to have both an actual trade screen and a way of actually trading with other players without having to go and individually find them in game. And that will be integrated with the website, so you will be able to complete trades while you're at work or school, for example. But there will not be an auction house that involves buyouts. And we said this even before we saw the disaster that occurred with D3's auction house.
I agree on that one. I found that system to be exploitative and frustrating.
Right. I mean, when I was playing, whenever the game got challenging, I just bought some stuff from the auction house, which meant that, like, put it this way, in Path of Exile and Diablo 2, you get this big enjoyment when you find an item, like that 5-link thing that you found there, right? That's a spike of enjoyment, and you play in order to get that really fun moment when you find good stuff. But if you just got to go and spend a few gold to get it from the auction house, whenever you need another item, it takes away that immediate fun of finding it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And like this 5-link item, we're about to try to make something out of here right now, so we shall see how it goes. I guess I got to try to rematch this might be a challenge to rematch those
The colors?
Yeah, to rematch these a bit, because I have rarity and quantity in, so we'll see. I have chromatics. I have a bunch of chromatics, so I guess we could try, but it doesn't necessarily
you don't
have to happen.
The order. It's just the quantity of the colors that matters. Like, they don't have to be... They affect everything in the item that's
what I
connected
mean.
Together. They don't... Yep. Some players think that it only affects the things that are adjacent to it.
No, I understand the full 5-link. I just mean that currently the one I'm using has 2 reds, 2 greens, and a blue, and the one I'm about to make has 3 blues and 2 greens. So, all right. So first, let me run through with the chat as to show you how I would. This is what I call the crafting system. It's just using all the currency items, but you take a base item that has good sockets or something that you really like. You use armor scraps to increase its quality. And since it's still a white, it's really easy to do that to 20%, which is the max. And then I'm going to use an alchemy orb to turn this into a rare. So the first roll is alright. It has maximum life, some decent energy shield, but nothing really that kind of pops at me. So I will go through spending as many of these chaos orbs as I may need to try to make this as good of an item as I can. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I don't need to roll this anymore. I win. I win the internet, guys. Dual quantity and rarity. You don't get that very often. This is a pretty awesome thing, and the increased evasion energy shield is nothing to be scoffed at. So, you're welcome, internet. Thank you very much, Chris.
That is very awesome.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
Now the only thing I would do from here is possibly try to re-roll the actual sockets. The issue here, though, is this chromatic will re-roll the colors. Nothing about the links will change. Nothing about the actual socket number will change. Just the colors will change. But since this is an evasion and energy shield item, so it's dex and int, you have a much, much better chance to roll greens and blues than you do reds. So to get 2 reds is going to be a challenge. I may not get 2 reds. Do you actually need that
exact socket layout for your... I mean, do you require those exact 5, or can you swap a red support gem for a blue or green?
I probably could. I would just be losing quantity, which is nice for me. I like that a lot. I'm a loot whore, as it were, so I guess that's the way it goes. But as long as it has 1 red, I could definitely do the weapon elemental damage. So we'll do a few spins of the chromatics. I have quite a few of them saved up, so I'm not too concerned about using that. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, you will be able to get what you look for eventually. Yeah.
Okay, so right now what I have here is 2 greens, 2 blues, and a red. So if I subbed out, and this might be fine, like this might totally work out good, I might sub out maybe my increased critical damage onto it or something, instead of the item quantity to increase the damage output. So just to demonstrate you to that, let me show you. My current DPS is listed at 1665. $2,011. So quite a big jump if I decide to switch that. And that's without any of my auras on or anything like that. So that's a pretty good upgrade if I decide to do that. But I am losing on the 32% increased quantity of items that I kill with that. So I love this kind of a system. I find it endlessly enjoyable. Chris, thank you for coming in and answering any questions we have. Anything from the chat before I start closing it all out?
It has been great being here, by the way, but I'm still going to answer stuff if you have any other questions.
Sure. I mean, we're welcome to hang out. I don't want to keep too much of your time, but if you're free, I'll definitely have going. I do have a few more questions that I marked in yellow as if we had time I'd get to them, so I'll keep asking those. And I may end up doing that map that we found while we do that. Still trying not to die, so.
I have a quick question then.
Go ahead.
Real-world trading is a problem with a lot of games. So what do you guys have planned to, prevent that, or do you guys plan on allowing that? And along those same lines, do you plan on making the cash shop currency tradable in game to kind of combat people trading outside of game?
I recognize that it is a big problem, and I can assure you that as sites crop up that are selling items in the game, we'll do what we have to close them down. And that may involve, for example, buying items from them and then looking them up in the database, working out where they came from. If there's exploits being used or bots, we terminate that. If there is anything that we can do legally to put pressure on people, then we can do so. Though, as far as I understand it, that's difficult. With regard to people doing specific transactions between themselves that we don't know about, there's very little we can do there. I mean, sure, I guess we could read all the chat messages and stuff in the game, but that's quite a large support nightmare. In answer to your other question, we haven't discussed having the microtransaction credits are very unlikely to be tradable as credits because, for a start, it opens up a large fraud issue. If people have the ability to trade those credits to each other, then you get the guy with a stolen credit card transferring it off to different accounts where it's really hard to get rid of them. But I'm sure once we hammer out the details of the microtransaction system, we'll post them on our site.
And another question people are having about the microtransaction system currently is, will the stash tabs they buy currently in closed beta, how will that roll over to open beta after the wipe?
It will be exactly how they left them. Basically, if they currently have an entitlement of 12 stash tabs, there will still be 12 stash tabs in each of the leagues that they have.
37. That's how many I have. So I will still have 37 stash tabs. I'm all for it.
That's a lot of stash tabs.
I agree.
We're going to be adding the ability for you to pay a small amount to name them.
Well, I don't think I need that much organization. I hope. We'll see. I may. We'll find out. I'm really excited about the thing I just rolled. This is really awesome. It's a really tough roll to make. Yeah.
You got the dual find mods and also the increase to the actual defensive properties of the armor.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I gotta admit, I'm really excited to go test this thing out here pretty soon. I am really tempted though. I'm really tempted to re-roll this chromatic to try to get 2 reds though. Even though it lowers my DPS, I really want to get that quantity back in there.
Just make sure that when you do, you have enough chromatics that you'll actually hit it, because it would really suck if you can't use your character anymore because you end up with a really bad set of sockets. Maybe keep your old armor around for that case.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to throw that away until I can sell it for something, because 5 links are not easy to get. So 6 links are even far more valuable, and if I found one of those, I'd also be excited.
Yeah,
with the
there
6
is
link,
a reason why that's hard, yeah.
With the 6 link, I can also put this lesser projectiles in if I made it green, if I got the right colors. And still, because the issue I have now is that my only other green slot is either mana leech or projectiles. If I did both, I could do both. I just don't have enough slots for that. So I could totally do that. It requires 5 links to be a good piece of armor too, I think, for high level stuff. The one I had that was older, it's fine, but it's just what I had. The one that I just made, this would sell for quite a bit with dual quantity rarity and some actual increase in evasion and energy shield. So the question from Supernova about being $10, and it's being free. I'm trying to understand that, but
He's asking why are they going with a free-to-play model instead of just making the actual game cost $10.
We announced the game as free to play, and a large amount of our early publicity, which was necessary to get to the stage, was based on the fact that it is a free game. Although it's great that people are paying for early access, and we really appreciate the support, and it's going a very long way, we can't really easily turn around and then say, nah, everyone's got to pay $10 and we were lying about it being free. That would be a scumbag move, and we try to be nice. So at this stage, we're fully going ahead with the plan to make it free once we hit open beta. I also think it's better for business. As I mentioned before, we'll get more players by being free. I mean, yeah, admittedly, for the people here who say $10 isn't a big deal, I'm really glad that you can afford that, and the support is great. You're lucky that you're able to pay $10 for entertainment, but some people, some kids, starving college students, I'd like them to be able to have a chance to play the game as well.
I'm going to re-roll this map and we're going to try to run it.
While you're doing that, another common question in chat has been, will there be vendors that sell the skills?
I think that it is likely that we will see skill gems in the in-game vendors that will trade them like they do with armors and stuff eventually. I don't see any harm in giving out the common quest rewardy skills that way. They may be relatively expensive in terms of what you have to trade for them in-game, but I think that that's probably on its way. Maybe not soon.
Someone had a question earlier from Sharon. He's asking about the chat system specifically. Right now it's just one big channel. I know you split it up a little bit for the special weekend events, but is there any other plans for features like chat tabs, private channels, or things more like MMO-like as opposed to ARPGs, or even like voice chat? What about stuff like that?
Well, voice chat is expensive and time-consuming to make. I mean, a product like TeamSpeak or Ventrilo or Mumble probably has like a 500 grand of development costs behind it. So we're not going to be developing our own voice chat immediately. We may have some way of integrating it in the future, or perhaps we'll just encourage people to use existing external clients for that in game. I do agree that the current channels are not going to scale particularly well once we start getting a very large amount of people in. We can only segregate them based on what area they're in currently, so at least that's going to have to change. And while we're at it, I mean, if players are demanding their own private chat channels, we'll see what we can do, but it's kind of a quality of life feature, and while we like life quality to be high, there's other really important priorities.
Alright, so I started a new map. I rolled this one with reflect physical damage, and I don't do a lot of physical damage, so I went ahead and augmented it, and then ended up with minus 15% maximum player resistance. I'm like, I can probably handle that. So that's what we're on right now, and it's 18% better yield. Ooh, we have necromancers in here.
Someone in chat asked me to explain endurance charges. Basically, there are skills that allow you to gain endurance charges, which last for 10 seconds and stack, and while you have them, you're resistant to damage. And there are spells that expend them in order to do something, like you can use a Mortal Call, which gets rid of them all to make you invulnerable for a few seconds.
Alright, so now is a good time for me to demonstrate my other ability that I've built up to deal with necromancers. Stuff that I had issues with in the past. Oh, I'm starting getting a few graphical errors coming up. Anyone else seeing that?
The red line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you're getting that. There's a very, very rare reported problem at the moment where some users get some graphical distortion like that. If it gets bad, you can restart your client. You should still have the ability to access the map area just by going through, using instance management to get back to the Eternal Laboratory.
Oh yeah, it's starting to get real funky.
Yeah. I recommend you restart your client.
Seems
We
like a
have a
good
vague
plan.
idea what's causing this, and we'll be working on it.
Do I just exit from here, or should I go back to the Eternal Laboratory first?
You can exit from here.
Alright, I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to switch my stream out real quick. I'm not shutting it down. I'm just switching the pages so my login info isn't showing. Is it an issue you think with like heating on the video cards? Because it doesn't seem to happen until I've been playing for a long time.
We initially thought it was an overheating issue, but after the people we've talked to have confirmed their cards aren't overheating, we believe it's just a very rare state you can get into with some corrupt stuff in memory. It was introduced relatively recently, so we have leads that we can use to track it down.
I was able to get back without any issue, so hopefully it should be fine. Sorry about that, guys. I should have cleared my inventory before I got in here. Oh well. Too bad. The thing I was going to talk about was I made a specific combination of a detonate dead totem to help me dealing with someone's mic is doubled. Sorry. To help me in dealing with these what are they called? I already lost the name. Necromancers. There you go. A little bit of a brain fart there, but yeah. So to help me deal with those guys who will keep rezzing all the undead guys around you.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Although at the same time when I made that, I also changed my bow around, which got me a lot more cold damage, which resulted in shattering more enemies anyways. So it became less of a problem just through that as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that you found a solution to the necros rather than complaining about them like me.
You know, I mean, thinking your way around the problem is better than just fix this. They suck. Like this doesn't help anybody. Wait, does that have an inherent bonus of spell damage on a chess piece? Is that normal?
That's the first time that I've seen this, but this is because it's a post-60 item. Like, we have some very high endgame ones that don't have strictly more, say, energy shield than each other, but they have interesting implicit things like that.
I'm going to hang on to it just in case.
Okay.
I guess
I learned something new here.
I saw that and went, wait a minute. I don't remember seeing that on any chess pieces before. So I'm not going in these stairs quite yet. I'm assuming they take me to different areas of the map, or I don't know. I've never been in this particular endgame map yet.
They teleport us back and forth.
I'm always concerned about where I'm going to come out. So,
yeah.
Look,
one of the users in the chat. Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, 3 Necromancer signals drops at the same time. Thought that was weird. Just coincidence, nothing big. Sorry, go ahead, user chat.
One of the users in that was asking about different weapon and arm models, the way that we repeat them for higher tiers, and the answer to that is that that's what we spend the supporter money on. The more that people contribute to us, the more money we'll have available to get extra content like that. And if we don't get enough money, that's okay, there'll just be some repeated stuff. The game will still be cool, but not quite as cool as it otherwise would be. But the support is directly used to pay for the time required to make additional models.
Yeah, I had a personal thing. I mean, my bow is a pretty decent bow, but it just looks like every other bow. You know, so I know it's not a unique, but I'd love to see some, I guess, more flourish out of that. So yes, please go support the game so we can get more flourish or awesomeness, whatever you want to call it. Well, I find these guys to be somewhat annoying. But they lay a tar patch on the ground that makes you slow. See.
Another question in chat. Is there a specific reason that PoE is using more memory than compared to other games with higher graphics settings?
The graphics settings don't affect the amount of memory that it uses. We preload too many assets at the moment so that you don't have to load them while you're playing. There are other games, which I won't name here, but you'll know which ones they are, where as you're playing and you encounter new assets, it jitters as loading them off the disk. We found that to be unacceptable, so we had it load the assets as you enter an area, and potentially we could do more intelligent loading, and I expect that we'll get that optimization in the future, and it will reduce the memory usage.
These stairs scare me. There was actually a question I had from Sharon earlier about what plans are there for in-game tooltips and reference material, like tutorials and that kind of thing. Because some of these mechanics are pretty deep.
Yeah, I'd like to make that more obvious. It's basically a matter of just time to polish it and make it explainable. We will be having it so that if you hover over text on the character screen, it shows a breakdown of not only how it was calculated, but what it actually means for your character. There was discussion about doing this on the passive tree as well, where if you hover over a passive, it shows more information about what you had before and what you'll have now, how it affects you.
Oh, leveling up the ones? Oh, you mean the passive damage increases? Stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, like if you hover over movement speed, it will say, you currently have this percentage, you'll have this now.
That makes some good sense. To give you a little more quantitative results. Ooh.
Another question in chat: are you planning on allowing players to scale the UI?
My initial thoughts on this years ago were that it should scale with their resolution like it does, so that it's always a consistent size relative to the size of their screen. So playing on a 30-inch monitor doesn't mean you have a tiny, tiny UI, and I use a 30-inch monitor myself. However, it wants the ability to scale the UI, so we'll probably add it over time.
Yes, I know that I am not going in these staircases. They scare me. So they just teleport me around the map into places I've never been. So I'll check them out later. Once I've cleared most of these monsters out, I'll start going in them.
Someone asks in chat, high strength builds become more dominant for farming because they can level the quantity, and quantity determines map drops. Are we happy with how that will work out? To be honest, no. I hadn't considered that, and that is very concerning, so it's something I'll definitely talk with the other designers about after this.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I was concerned about taking my quantity away.
Yeah. That might be a good candidate to become white. Either way, thank you.
That's an interesting idea, yeah. If anybody could level that one, it wouldn't be powerful for certain builds. I've already gone through the chat, the questions from the event. So, any other questions from chat? Go ahead, speak up.
One of the questions. Go ahead.
There's one that's gonna pop up every single time. I believe you said before that you're against having floating combat chat, but would you consider making it like optional for the people that do like it?
Yeah, I think we're probably going to have to, based on player demand. The reason why I sound resigned there, it's not like I don't want the game to be what people want, but we're trying really hard to keep the playfield as clear as possible. If you block, for example, we want to show the fact that your character blocked with a shield, and have it, play a block sound rather than have the word blocked appear 4 times a second over your character. And we're trying hard to keep numbers away from the playfield. It's something that I understand that modern games are going in that direction, but I personally don't like it. Few of our other developers do like it. In terms of options, that's another thing. It's very easy to say, why don't you add all these options to the game? But then you'll get these option screens that are crazily confusing, and players won't be getting a consistent experience. They'll feel that because it's there, they should turn it on so they have the information, and then suddenly everyone's getting a degraded experience where there's numbers all over the screen. Having said that, it is such a common request that I suspect we will probably strongly consider adding it.
What I think you'd end up with, especially in rooms like this, if you guys have ever encountered a wealthy mob, there's certain mobs that have a rare chance to, well, not certain mobs, but mobs have a rare chance to have the wealthy mod, and when you kill them, just a pinata of loot just flows out of them. I will get something in the realm of 4 to 8 rares, like 15 blues. It's really quite awesome. But a screen full of loot, when I run with loot always showed, is really going to be difficult to see any of these numbers anyways. So, you start combining too much information, you cause some problems for people.
Yeah, I also think that the drop rate of items is both a little too high, and that the wealthy mod should be changed to increase the rarity of the items rather than the number.
Either way, it would work. Getting good items is great, but getting a ton of items is pretty fun. That excitement is still there.
along those same lines of the numbers and decreasing playability, people are asking if there will be an option to turn down the effects from the spells, because playing alone they say it's okay, but playing in larger parties on the lower end PC, it kills their frame rate.
Oh, that was one of the questions I didn't see.
That's a good concern. I suspect that over time we'll add more options to the graphics settings so that people can customize that for the specs of their PC.
I'm currently running on a Core i5 2500K with two 560 Ti's in SLI mode. So I don't have any personal issues except for those weird glitches that showed up a minute ago. But it runs great for me, but I understand that not everyone is going to be able to run such a system. My inventory is basically full again.
Another question I've seen asked repeatedly is, can you tell us the current number of people who have donated for Diamond?
I think that it is somewhere between 55 and 60, but I could be wrong.
That's pretty cool. The diamond kiwi looks pretty fantastic. Time to sort
Someone
through all
in
my
chat
stuff
asks.
again.
Someone in chat asks whether or not any special events will have much higher drop rates. Our philosophy is that special events will only make the game harder because people want to keep their characters afterwards when they get transferred back to the normal leagues. It's important that they don't have some kind of advantage playing in that league, other than prizes that they may win for doing well at it, which is cool.
Your mic is having some issues, I believe.
Sorry, is it okay now?
Yeah, I think there was something up against it, or perhaps something like that.
Okay, I now know where it is on my laptop. To what extent should I read that question?
I personally didn't really understand what you said, but that was me. So,
okay.
Maybe try again.
So, the question was whether or not we were going to have special leagues that have increased item drops as a reward for playing in them. You know, like you can level up more quickly or get more items for playing in that 2-hour league. And the reason we're not doing that is we only want them to make the game harder. That way players have no advantage by playing in those, other than the rewards that they get for doing well on them.
This place is a maze. I could see the draw for them to get the advantage in that league and then want to keep playing that character. I see what you mean.
Chris, along the lines earlier, you said you wanted to have two different trading systems. The question being asked in chat is, can players trade via global and trade chat without having to be in the same party or instance eventually?
Eventually, sure. Basically, the way that will work is, let's say you're in an instance here in the map, and I'm at work on the website. We can still complete a trade from scratch. Like, you can make your offer, I can make my counter offer, we can negotiate and then complete the trade, and we get items without me even having to log into game and without you even having to leave the map that you're doing. That's the eventual solution. It will be a while.
Is there any plans to implement that directly with the forums? Since the forums can have items
sure.
as well?
Yep, it's definitely on the forums.
I was a big fan of even just having the general trading forums in this game. You can just go on there and post literally what you have. Ooh, map! Found a map.
Congratulations. You're training these maps quite well today.
Yeah, I've been getting lucky. It doesn't always go this way. The maps are usually quite rare. I do have quite a bit of quantity and rarity, which I don't know if that helps maps specifically, but I imagine quantity would.
Yeah, they both do.
Yes.
We actually had an interesting situation at first where... So, initially you could only get maps from rare monsters and unique monsters in the final level of Merciless, like from the boss there, basically. Before we expanded it so much of Merciless Act 2 can drop them. Anyway, because they would only drop from bosses, and bosses had such a high chance of dropping magic and rare items, the first map that players would get would typically be magic or rare, which is way too hard for them. So we had to explicitly make it so that from those bosses, you're probably getting white maps.
I would agree that, yes, white maps... I almost prefer them white maps so you can just roll them how you want them. Like, even though rare maps are kind of cool because you start out with something, but
Right. That's like
in
finding
maps,
a
yeah.
map plus an alchemy, which is, I mean, the map's worth more than the alchemy, I assume. I don't actually know what the value of the maps is in game.
I don't know if that's been balanced out quite yet.
Yeah, well, that's up to the players, not us.
True.
Another
We do what we
question.
can to change it.
Another
Sure, go on.
question in chat is a button to auto sort your inventory. I guess to condense it in like the easiest way to fight the Tetris.
Can be done. It's not really a priority, but it's not game breaking, so yeah, I don't have any opposition to it other than the fact that it takes time and money away from other features.
I think in a similar fashion, the ability to either right-click or shift-click your items directly into your stash would be nice.
Yeah, that needs to be in soon. The reason why we don't have a key there is merely because we couldn't find one. Like, shift-click is unstack, right-click is use currency item, control-click is link and chat. It's just there's a conflict there. We should add center stash as soon as we can work out a key for it.
How about shift right-click? What does that
Then
do?
it gets complicated. Like, it has to be something really obvious to the player.
Yeah, I know.
We'll
I
work
don't
something
think it's
out,
easy. I just...
Well, if shift click puts it into cell, wouldn't it be easy just to make shift click put it into stash as well?
Right, but then how do you split
Yeah,
stacks?
probably. Yeah, it was
So-
the stat splitting thing that was an issue. Double click. Yeah, nice.
I don't know.
Someone asks whether people will be able to make add-ons for the game. No, they will not. This is because it's playing on our servers and everyone has to have a fair equal time. So, as much as we'd love to support mods, it's just not viable with this product, both because of how we've made it and because of our business model. So, if people change the game, they will get banned.
For those of you who may ask, the reason I picked up that bow is because it's going to be a higher item level than other bows of that same, and I like thicket bows because of the fast attack speed. It's a personal preference. And I want to see if it becomes something good. Okay, I think I've cleared most of this. It's time to start jumping into these staircases and warping around. I don't think I fought the boss yet, unless that was one of the guys I killed when he was trying to chase after me.
Another question is if there will be unique legendary flask.
Yep, they will be. I've seen one. In fact, we had one in the past that I made, but it was taken out.
Okay, here's a new area. This must be where the boss is.
Will gems be dropped on death in Cutthroat?
There were multiple changes to that. I think that there is some code that prevents gems from being dropped on death. I think the patch notes are the best place for people to check. Do you remember, Jonathan, if gems are dropped on death in Cutthroat?
No.
I thought that was removed. Yes, they don't drop anymore.
Yeah, they don't drop. I think this was because it was really kind of a low blow when you lose your gems and have to find those again as well.
Oh god. I'm almost gonna die. See, this is when, to me, it becomes challenging in tight corridors. Because the angle to hit that guy is so specific. Wow. Man, that hurts.
Someone asks if we're making the number of flasks dependent on your belt. That is something that's being discussed. We haven't yet. It's an option. Someone asks whether any unique orbs are planned, but we don't have the concept of unique orbs. They're all the same rarity. I mean, they're all the same quality, as it were.
I'm having an issue with this guy hanging out like I would around the corner.
So he's outsmarting you?
Yeah, kind of. This a little bit. So I'm gonna use my totem to distract him, my intention. Seems to be working. He's not hitting me. It's kind of a challenge with the way this is laid out. That room is full of guys. I don't want to die, Chris. I don't want to die.
It's got to be challenging sometime.
I got him. Ah.
Congratulations.
I didn't die, guys. I didn't die. I would use my special. I always forget they're here. I have diamond flasks on and granite flask for taking damage. Just gonna clear out the rest of these guys so I can talk in peace.
Okay. Actually, also, are there any other questions you have before I go?
Anything from the chat, guys?
Yeah. Well, it was a previous question, but I guess it kind of changes over time. Is what that you've been working on that hasn't made it into the game would you have liked to seen, or would you have liked to have seen make it into the game?
I think everything that we want to get into the game will get into the game. We'll get to it. It's just going to be that it takes a while. I mean, there are cool systems that we haven't even talked about yet, which we've fully designed out. You know, things like that map system that just have to wait until the correct time to be done. Sorry for the non-answer.
That is the benefit of making your own game, right? Is you gotta put in exactly what you want all the time. It may take a little longer to get to some stuff, but you can still do it.
Yeah, hopefully.
We have another one. Any plans for the disparity in lightning casters versus cold fire casters?
It's on the list of balance concerns that we're going through. Micro balance changes like that are best done after we've made macro changes, and at the moment we're changing so much stuff with PvP that there's no point in us making small changes like that, because they may not even be a problem anymore once we've sorted out the PvP changes. And I understand he may have been talking about... Well, I don't know if he was talking about Monstro player casters there.
He did not specify.
I would assume just from playing, there are a stronger assortment, let's say, of cold skills available than there are of lightning and they've been adding to that over time. So
okay, well, we've definitely got a ton more skills planned. I mean, just today we implemented Ice Shot, which is an ice arrow skill that has now been announced as of now.
Nice. I love ice arrows, so I'm going to be a fan of using that skill. Guess who's going to respec into Ice Shard? This guy. Alright, so it looks like I cleared out this map. We're going to go ahead and let Chris get going. Any other last minute questions before he takes off?
Just one, because it's going to become popular. You're against allowing mods, but people are asking if you will allow UI-only mods.
It's probably not likely. I think that, like, if you allow any customization of the client, where do you draw the line? I mean, sure, stuff to make it look pretty or different, while it may be okay from an ethical point of view, it's somewhat indistinguishable from a detection point of view as something that's actually, like, doing actions for players or presenting information, like a map hack, right? A map hack is just and them changing the way the UI looks so it happens to represent the monsters that the client knows about, or the map layout that the client knows about that would not normally be shown. And in order to properly persecute people who are actually changing the game for a personal advantage, and we do have to come down hard on that, otherwise there's no point in having the game online, then we will have to prevent people from making their own modifications to the game. Having said that, we have UI programmers. If the community demands certain features, it's quite likely that we'll eventually get to it.
I agree with you on the chat. For cosmetic UI changes can definitely give advantages. I agree, and that could be a concern.
Yeah, fairness is the priority.
Well, I think we have a final one to ask that kind of goes with Raijin hand in hand.
Uh-oh.
Is there going to be a max cap on stash tabs?
No. Don't cap my stash tabs.
The max cap is currently 65536.
What,
we
really?
welcome anyone who tries to reach that.
Jeez. Did you say 65,300?
Yeah.
Jeez.
2 to the power 16.
That's ridiculous.
Now, I have a question about that. A lot of games have a max number of 65536. Where does that come from?
That's the maximum number of combinations you can store on 16 bits of memory. When you're storing values in games, you have to make a choice of how many bits you want to store them in, which should be a multiple of 8. So that's why you see 8-bit values go up to 256. Well, the maximum value being 255 because 0 is included. And this is what you get with 16 bits, which is 2 bytes.
Binary code, people. Wasn't that what the 255 thing came from back in the day?
Sure.
Is that similar
8-bit
in nature?
CPUs could only count that high.
Gotcha. I don't know. That
This
was
is dramatic simplification, so I apologize to the people out there.
Totally. Let's talk about the Higgs boson. We totally understand that, right?
Yeah, that one's outside my speciality.
Exactly. Same kind of thing. Like I don't know anything about the Higgs boson, so I don't know much about the 256 number cap. That makes perfect sense. Thanks a lot, Chris, for coming and hanging out with us. Thanks for answering everybody's community questions.
Okay. Remember to give out those keys that I sent you.
Will do. I'll probably do that here shortly. I may take a quick break and come back and do that. And I'll definitely do it tonight, so definitely in the next couple hours. Again, the game is Path of Exile. You guys can go to www.pathofexile.com and check it out. Check out their purses tab if you guys are interested in checking out being a supporter of their game and playing it. I highly recommend going and checking out. Just $10 to be a supporter and take a look. And there's plenty of other options if you want to try to get in a little deeper. But the game is great. You just watch some of the in-game content. And thanks again.
And thank you very much to Brian for answering questions in chat as well.
Indeed. Thanks for all of my helpers who helped me moderate that stuff because I was trying not to die.
Okay. I had a great time. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
I didn't die, guys. I didn't die.
Congratulations.
Yep.
You win the third internet.